was presented today. So the other really important piece of this is the story. So John mentioned the Seattle Teacher Residency Program. So there are, because I get the opportunity to be in your schools, in your businesses, in your organizations throughout the week, throughout the year, there are incredible amounts of work, bright spots, programs where we're making huge inroads in both capturing kids into the STEM pipeline, sparking their innovation and their love for STEM, and moving them through and out into the STEM careers in the workforce. However, we have to tell that story bigger than just that one program, that one school building, that one business, because that's part of the challenge in all of this, is that great Seattle Teacher Residency Program that may be totally scalable, half of us, most of us don't know about that. And our policymakers who have the ability to change it don't know about it. And I know here in the Spokane region, we have program and example after example because I've had the opportunity to see them. And so part of the rest of our morning is that we need to start to raise out your STEM stories. That is one of the primary roles with the Spokane STEM Network, is so that we're telling your story beyond just your doors to a much broader region and to those that can help us make change and scale the outcomes for our kids. So to help us do that for the rest of this morning, I want to invite a good friend and master storyteller, Frank Svoboda, to the stage.
Good morning. I'm struck by one thing that John said, which is the incredible opportunity that we see before us here in this state particularly. People ask me all the time, what do you do? And my team and I are professional storytellers. So for 25 years, dating myself here in front of all of you, I've been in the business of, mostly through film and video, television commercials, all kinds of integrated media, telling all kinds of organizations stories and communicating really who they are. Tomorrow is my 14th anniversary as a company. Corner Booth Media started 14 years ago tomorrow. April Fool's Day, no surprise, for those who know us well. We've had a really great opportunity to tell great stories to this community and all around really the country. And our big motto that we hang our hat on as an organization is whoever tells their story best wins. And we've had the great pleasure and opportunity to do that for some really great organizations. Anybody recognize these people? Anybody seen this on television? Can you raise your hand if you have? Anybody an SCCU member? Now, I'm an SCCU member, and if anybody asks anybody if they're an SCCU member, they just go, yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, you just told people where you bank and we're using your... But there's a love for this organization, and we've had the great privilege for 15 years of telling their story. 15 years ago, it took them as an organization about 60 years to get to 70,000 members. Their headquarters are just down the street here. In the last 15 years, from telling their story consistently, STCU has almost doubled that amount of members. We're near 140,000 members. STCU, the little credit union that you love, is the second largest credit union in the state of Washington behind BECU. It's a powerhouse, and it really is because of the great work that the people at STCU do. I see Tom Johnson out there. But we've had the great chance to sort of tell that story really through the people who they serve. We've also had the chance to work with another great organization in the last 15 years, if anybody recognizes those guys. They had a pretty good run this year, didn't they? I was pretty proud of the Zags, right? I'm a Zag myself. We've really been privileged to tell the story of Gonzaga for a really, really long time. And this is a pretty winning team. And their story really continues to unfold. So there's sort of a love for these guys, this brand, this university that has taken them actually to a national level. And the story keeps unfolding. I mean, we continue to hear things like, who knew Mark Few could do a handstand, right? Who knew he would tell us that he could do a handstand, or he would show us that? Well, really, we found out through the kid up there in the middle, the 6'10" guy on his iPhone, who put it on Twitter. Changed, I think, for the better how we feel about Mark Few, Gonzaga, that brand. So, but really, what does that have to do with STEM, and why would a guy like me, who really is in the business of just telling stories, be asked to come to an event like this, let alone present at it? I mean, when it comes to science, I did not do well. Barely graduated in high school and college, or barely finished those courses and passed them. It was a struggle for me. Math I use every day in my business, very handy to me. Engineering, my dad was an architect, and he's like, kid, trust me, that's not a field for you. Technology, however, is a big part of what I do. It's every part of what I do. We're faced constantly in our business with, what kind of cameras are you now going to use? What kind of editing software is this? Are you available and upgrading to? How are all these platforms digitally connecting? How do they all leverage one another? And really, at the end of the day, though, who cares? Who cares that I have a STEM story? Who cares that I am involved in STEM? Well, maybe you haven't met the people who care about your story. So Alisha talked earlier about the real importance of making sure that we're connected, that our story of STEM gets told. And these people played at the little video that you guys saw at the beginning. We're looking at Pam Lund from the Girl Scouts, okay? And that's Mike, I'm going to get his name wrong, Michael Navsgar from Kaufman Engineers, Mike Westphal from Eastern, Vice President there, Eastern Washington University. Dave Peden is a partner also at Kaufman. That's Cameron and Emily O'Halloran. They're both from Linwood Elementary. You would not think that someone from the Girl Scouts and Kaufman Engineers and some kids from Linwood and an executive at Eastern would have much in common. But take a look at this.
First, robotics is where you program robots, you figure out something that you want to create and you create it.
First Robotics is this robotic program that gives the chance to learn cooperation, teamwork, professionalism, all those type of traits. It shapes someone and just gives them all the knowledge they need to know.
First Robotics is multiple levels of STEM related activities, anywhere from building Legos to building robots and competing with those robots.
Eastern brought that to this community about 6 years ago, focusing on early STEM education for elementary and middle school students.
It teaches about solving real world problems and applying their new learning to real situations.
They do have judges from engineering companies. They are giving their real life experience.
The only way that we're going to be successful as a society is by working together and seeking out partnerships and opportunities to partner.
I see my role as a partner in STEM as to help inspire students to get into STEM. It causes them to dream.
It plants the seed, and what we're trying to do is fill the pipeline so the workforce needs that currently aren't being met today can be met down the road.
It's very exciting for us to be involved in these competitions. You got to get the kids interested. They don't understand what it's all about. They just know that science and math is hard. And so if they get excited about something, then maybe they'll stick it out and actually enjoy it and find a career in a STEM-related field.
I really want to be in the STEM area because I can help the world in any way I want to.
It's inspired me to think differently. I want to do robotics in middle school. I want to keep that going.
Thinking critically is very important here at Kaufman Engineers. A lot of our clients expect us to bring an idea to them that helps them succeed. STEM does that for them. First Robotics will help start that process.
A lot of these kids had very little experience with this kind of thinking, and a lot of girls had very little exposure to that kind of thinking.
Many girls get academic information in the classroom about science, and when they come to Girl Scouts, they actually do something with that information. Build a robot, things that are totally science related.
I didn't really like science, but now since it involves science and math and everything, I feel like I want to be more of a scientist now.
I really learned a lot about what students can be capable of. I didn't teach them robotics, they taught themselves.
My team lost, but I learned that from that experience that it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's just what experience you got from it.
STEM is the future. Most of the high-paying jobs in the future will be in STEM, and we want those jobs here in Spokane.
This is the program that should be celebrated here. This stuff makes a difference.
So the cynic in me, and many of you probably, is saying, yeah, but I don't have a STEM story like that. What do I have to share? I mean, those guys had robots, that was cool, and the impact it's having on those kids is amazing. But if you're sitting here right now thinking you don't have a STEM story, everybody has a STEM story to share, even me. There's the guy on the right. It's Professor Dan Garrity from Gonzaga University. He heads the Broadcast Studies Department at Gonzaga. 10 years ago, we ran into each other and he said, hey, would you come talk to my class? I said, sure, why? Because Dan really comes from the broadcast news part of the business that I'm in. He's a news guy, and I'm not a news guy. I've never liked being a part of that, and I have tons of friends who are, but it's not what draws me. Because, well, actually, I have a lot of students who want to be in the business that you're in, of telling stories in motion picture and in TV ads and that kind of work. Would you come and talk to him? So I did, and afterwards he goes, hey, you want to go get a drink? And I said, sure. So he goes, we both discovered we like gin and tonic, okay? So every 6 months for the last 10 years, Dan and I go have a gin and tonic together. And he said to me, well, okay, now tell me what you need from my students. And I said, well, the biggest challenge I got is the students you have aren't using the same editing software that we are. They're not connected to the real world that we live in. I'm making stuff every day, and your kids can't help me right now. He said, well, what are you really looking for? And I said, I'm looking for 3 things. Creative thinkers, people that are great with people, and that have mad technical skills. Kind of in that order. So the company we have built is a boutique storytelling company in which technology is really important, but it's the 3rd most important part. And so Dan said, okay, let me go do something about that. He has done that. He has come back and he has changed the kind of software that they use, and he's kicking out kids that think really creatively. He has a film fight every year that I'm going to judge next Tuesday, and some of my guys that I've hired at Gonzaga that are a part of that, where those kids are taking a story and doing like a 48-hour film festival all around in the movie side of it. He has really embraced what we have talked about because we've just talked over gin for a few years. The best gift I got the last couple of years is a guy named Andrew Opila. Andrew's here. Andrew, stand up, say hi. There he is. So over the last 10 years, I've hired 6 Zags. I've hired some Whitworth guys too, so don't get too, some Cougars, but I'm a Zag, so we've nourished this relationship, and some of them have come and gone, but a couple years ago he said, hey, what do you really need now? And I said, man, I don't know if it exists. What I really need is somebody that also has the ability to edit, that can think creatively, that can shoot, that can be a really great storyteller and has a passion for it. But also has some animation skills. There's more of a demand for that than ever. And he goes, I got the kid for you, his name's Andrew. So he brought Andrew to us, and we hired Andrew a couple of years ago, and he's been a phenomenal addition to our team. He's taken us to a whole new level. And we asked Andrew what he really wanted. So important for me as a business owner that I get the right person that can fit with us. Also important for Dan is he's sort of trying to fill the pipeline, as John was talking about, with the right sort of education. But it's, at the end of the day, really important for Andrew. I mean, Andrew needs to be at a place that's a good fit. He wants to travel, he wants flexible hours, he wants the chance to see the world, and he wants the chance to tell really interesting stories every day. That's what we've given him the opportunity to do, and it kind of all started with gin. So you need to share your stories with each other. A lot of people in the STEM field, as I'm getting to know this, are isolated in a silo. There's literally a guy that shares the same space that we do who works in the field of robotics. And we had a meeting in our conference room, our shared conference room, with the STEM team. And I'm like, do you know this guy, this robotics guy? And they're like, no, I have no idea who that is. It's like, wait a minute, you guys have to have a platform to be able to do that. And the most important thing to realize is this isn't the STEM story, it's sharing the STEM story. And I think that's what Spokane STEM Network is about. It's really about trying to make sure that that gets done. We have to develop, these are my words, you guys may come up with a better one, but some kind of connection matrix that allows all these stories to happen, allows us to model what everybody did at First Robotics, where you're sharing somebody from higher ed is also connected to the kids on the ground and inspiring them to think that science is cool. But it all really comes down to knowing what your STEM story is. So we're gonna actually do a little work right now as a team. So at your table, everybody has one of these. It probably came in your program. We're gonna ask you to fill out these 3 really important questions. What does STEM mean to you? Okay? You know, for me, STEM really is about connections. STEM to me means connections. What is your organization's STEM strength? Every organization has a strength. Our strength is telling stories. How do you see your role as a partner in the Spokane STEM Network? Our role in the Spokane STEM Network is to be a place that can tell your stories, to make sure that these stories connect, to tell the First Robotics story, and to get the word out, because that really is where we all find out about what we're creating. So take a little time right now. We got a few minutes. If you can please go through and answer those questions. There's an envelope in the middle of your table. When you're done, put it in the envelope and share your stories if you have time. Enjoy. And no cheating. Yeah. You're the timekeeper. We should have played. So if you're done, share that at the table. It'd be really nice to know at least what your strengths are. If you can get around that around the table, please do.
share your STEM strength this morning, but I know many of you would very much like to be out of here at 9. So we do want to take a couple of minutes, though, and have a couple of people share their STEM story, what they've written down with us, just to kind of get us all thinking as we leave today. And so the first person I'm going to ask is Nancy Ledabor from the Spokane County Library District. And Frank's moving that way with the microphone, so you don't have to yell.
Phil Donahue.
Oh, thank you. Well, for me, STEM is what the library always does, which is a place of exploration and discovery. And we see young children come in who their eyes light up over dinosaurs or Mars or this outer space. And we want to keep that passion alive by supporting their independent learning. We're also about supporting academic success and making sure that students have a place out of school where they can go and pursue something that interests them that might not be in the curriculum, or find that added support for being successful in school. And we're here for all ages too, so whether you're a preschooler, high school, or an adult looking to make a change, the library has that support for STEM education.
So, and Nancy, what do you see as the role that the County Library District plays as part of the network?
Well, one of the things we do is that we see a lot of experts in our community who are doing fabulous things, like at our high schools and in our other nonprofit organizations. And so we like to tell the story of those organizations and help connect people to those organizations when we see that they're interested in robotics or Legos or whatever, and parents may not be aware that these activities exist. So we see ourselves as a connector and a storyteller.
Thank you. Next, how about Terry Ashby Scott from the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship? You couldn't hide from me, Terry. I saw you over there, hiding behind Susan.
Sorry. Come stand up first.
Yeah. Well, my name is Terry Ashby Scott. I'm the Eastern Washington representative for the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship. And I think when I think of STEM, or what STEM means to me, is the future. When we look at a lot of the different types of employment opportunities for students, it is in the science, technology, engineering, and math fields. In terms of what my organization's STEM strength is, WSOS provides scholarships to high school students and undecided freshman and sophomore students in terms of STEM fields. And so we have 357 STEM disciplines that we support in the hopes that the students will continue and persist and be retained in those disciplines, as well as seek jobs in Washington State. And then how do we see our role as a partner, or how do I see my role as a partner in the Spokane STEM Network, in terms of working with students to help them persist and to be retained in their institutions and then get jobs. And we also want to, because I'm relatively new in this position, look for different opportunities for our students to experience different STEM opportunities so that they know what they're going into when they go into be an employer. Thank you, or employee, thank you.
Thanks, Terry. And so next I would like to invite two phenomenal ladies who we've had the opportunity to work with, and who have worked for two organizations that have been truly both the catalyst and the foundation for raising up the Spokane STEM Network. And so I'd like to invite Christine Meyer from Avista, and then I'd also like to invite Kim Pierman-Gilman from McKinstry forward.
Thank you. Avista is a founding investor of the STEM network in Spokane, and the script says it's because we're one of the largest STEM employers, but I want to cross out largest because I want to focus on why we're all here today. It's because we're all STEM employers fundamentally. Everyone is a STEM employer. Everyone needs to value these skills, and we all can appreciate the value in them as employers. So we're here because we see the STEM network as part of the solution. And I think that's something that we can all share. It's a way to control your own destiny. That there's a spectrum of involvement opportunities that the STEM network presents that everyone can participate in. Everything from engaging in the development of the network itself to being involved and engaged in our classrooms. And the network presents that solution for us, and that's why we've become one of the founding investors. And I want to invite Kim up to talk a little bit next, but just to encourage everyone to consider our shared destiny and to be involved in the STEM network from that perspective and invite your investment alongside us.
Can you thank Avista for all they do? Thank you. Feels like old home week to me, so to all my ITRON friends, it's great to be back in this great space and with a great company that if you go down one of these walls here, they have patents just lining the wall, and it's the STEM expertise that this company brings to the community that's just phenomenal. So really proud of all that you guys do on a regular basis. I want to talk to you from 3 perspectives, if it's okay. First, as a mom, and I want to tell you my daughter is my oldest daughter. Let's talk about her first. Let's talk about social equity. John, everything you said changed everything I wanted to say, so thank you for what you brought forward. Because you have no idea what I was gonna say. No. So my oldest daughter, Alexandria, studied first at UW and then at WSU and has a degree in the rhetoric of racism. So back to an English degree to set a foundation for a way of thinking. And what's really important to that is she's all about social justice and about the ability for kids to learn. She is now a teacher. She got her master's in teaching, and she's teaching in Renton in low-income schools by choice. Right? She wants to make a difference every day for kids of color and kids of less fortune that are inhabiting the school that she's in. And I can tell you it's a challenge. It's a true challenge. And the McCleary decision will actually help in that regard because it'll keep the schools a bit smaller for the classrooms and so that they can get that. But I think we all have to double down on our responsibility as parents in terms of who we are raising. And what we're choosing to raise are both those who are focused on STEM, and I want to single out someone who made the biggest difference in my daughter's lives, and you guys just probably don't know this, but Sylvia Oliver, if you don't mind standing just for a second, an amazing teacher from WSU. A scientist that showed my girls from a very young age, they would go to her camps in the summer and learn scientific skills from her. And this Alexandria has that scientific skill, and what she wants to do for her summers, Patrick, is she wants to teach STEM to girls, right? She wants to spend her time teaching it to girls because she knows if girls don't make it past that 7th and 8th grade and stay engaged, that they're not gonna make a difference. So we as parents have to tell our girls it's cool to do science and math. We have to get them into the summer school programs that put them ahead of the situation. Right? Our daughters in 7th, 8th grade in summer, everybody else's kids were out having fun. They were actually enrolling themselves with a lot of encouragement in science and math classes, okay? Because they wanted to buck the trend, but they also were going to the schools that you can go to. Central Washington has a great program for girls in the summer. My girls learned how to blow things up. That was exciting to them. They learned how to pilot planes in the summer. This isn't because I had a ton of money to send my kids. These programs don't cost hardly anything. The universities are the ones that are stepping up and making that possible for our kids. So find out about these programs and get your kids involved in them. But Alexandria, I'm really proud of her as a teacher because we need good teachers in our public schools if we're going to change the social injustice. Education is the pathway. So as a parent, I think that's really important. My second daughter, Sky, is one of the 9 that got across that on yours, okay? She went to University of Washington. She's a biologist, a marine biologist, and she's working for the University of Washington today as a researcher, so thank you very much, University of Washington. She had the same training with Alexandria, with Sylvia, and with other teachers, but it's because they got the math and science that they needed. Now we have our 17-year-old. I need a little help getting her through the process. I think I might be a little tired as an older parent instead of the younger parent, but any of you that want to send up a few prayers for her, that might be what she actually needs. But I just say as a parent, get involved and don't look at just the teacher's job to get this done. It's a community that's going to get it done. As a business person, I would tell you that McKinstry is highly engaged in STEM education. Our CEO is an amazing man. Dean Allen, If you haven't met him yet, you would love to meet him because he just exudes STEM education and the focus of it. He was actually one of the co-founders of Washington STEM. We house Washington STEM in our Innovation Center in Seattle, and we just are very, very proud of the legacy of what Washington STEM is bringing to the table, because it does take a disruptive technology, in a sense, to change what is going on. And it is that commitment from McKinstry, Boeing, Microsoft, a lot of other people that actually helped Washington STEM get going. But it also was our investment as a company off of tax credits from our building in Spokane to help get the Spokane Learning Network going. And so we're big sponsors of that because we do believe that it is our role as a business company in this community to make sure that the kids here can do those jobs. And I will tell you, whether it's our blue-collar workers, our pipe fitters, our plumbers, our mechanical engineers, our commissioning engineers, they all must have STEM education. It is not a white-collar, blue-collar issue. STEM education is all of our kids' issue. This is a way to get there. And then finally, just as a community leader, I think the biggest economic gains, the numbers you showed there, that's the reason we all need to double down, because our community can be that much better if we can change this, right? And we can't be standing around waiting for somebody else. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Okay, so it is us. So it's about getting engaged and making sure you're doing the parts that you can do as a parent, as a community person, and as a business person. So I would just ask Christine to come back up and help me ask you guys to do your part.
Wait, you switched. Here we are. I would just close by saying I think it's everyone's job, it's everyone's concern, it's everyone's kids, and it's everyone's community. And it can be everyone's network as well. When we're all working together to pull on this same string or rope, I think the kind of impact that we can make is great. Some of you that know me know that I spend about 3 hours a day in windshield time, so I get a lot of NPR listening in. And this morning, it was really early, so I got to hear the BBC part of the news that I don't normally get to hear. And one of the things that they were talking about this morning was the first Chinese dynasty. And that was when, it was about 2,000 years ago, give or take, and they built the Great Wall of China. And when I sit here today, I think about how did they do that? They were mad STEM people, they had to be. But, and it gets pyramids done too. But really what was going on was a tremendous amount of vision, a sense of urgency, and great leadership. And I think that's what we have in the room today. And I would ask everyone to take up that role to build our Great Wall of China, the one thing that you can see from outer space that's more than 2,000 years old. And I think we can do it together. And I would ask everyone to do their part in building the network that would be our Great Wall of China.
Cool. So the call to action is for each of you to think about the ways that you can be involved, but to definitely think about how your organization can help fund the Spokane Learning Network. And we very much appreciate it if you really took that back to your companies, back to your organizations, and said, what can we do? How can we be involved? Thank you.
Thank you, Kim and Christine. And so, to get started on that call to action, we want to invite all of you to make sure that you start today or leave today by becoming a partner of the Spokane STEM Network. So I have one task for you because I know you're all ready to go, so this is going to be the easy part. You all need to check to make sure you have your cell phones. So take them out. We want to make sure we haven't lost them along the way, misplaced them. This URL, SpokaneSTEM.org, and I'm going to get this right, Carrie, / be a partner. It'll pop up this screen. It's pretty simple, your first name, your last name, the organization that you work for, your email address, and identifying whether or not you're an organization, an educational institution, or a business. What that does is it signs you up to be a partner of the network. After you're signed up, you'll receive a nice little welcome to being a partner of the Spokane STEM Network with the initial kind of toolkits to get started, including a great Spokane STEM partner mark that you can put on your website, put on your materials. It starts to signify that you're a partner of the network. You can do it today, It'll be in the email that we send you tomorrow, as well as the link to to the presentation, really to the BCG report around the pipeline will be in that email as well. And ask that all of you, as you leave here today, to think about what your role and what your lens of STEM is and how you become a partner in the network. Because it's going to take all of us. I love building the Great Wall. It's going to take all of us, as my team hears me say often, this work, we have to do it smarter, we have to do it more efficiently, because the timeline is getting shorter by the day. And so we have to figure out how we're going to do this work differently, because that resonated with me this morning, that we're having the same conversation we were 30 years ago. And we can't be here 30 years from now having this same conversation. So with that, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to give a special thank you to John Winstrup and to Frank Swoboda for really being our story this morning. A huge thank you to our founding investors, Avista, McKinstry, and Washington STEM, and thanks to Patrick and Lee for making the trip over here. A thank you to our major sponsors, Caterpillar, PAML, the University of Washington and Washington State University, Spokane, and to our supporting sponsors, NAC Architecture, the Spokane County Library District, and the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship. So with that, thank you again. Thanks to Itron, I do not want to forget that. Callie, you've been phenomenal. Thank you for this space. All of you up there, give yourselves a round of applause. And with that, go about, have a wonderful day, and think about your lens of STEM as you leave today. Thank you.